Terrible news out of India. 30 people are dead at a religious festival. Over 400 million people are expected to attend, making it the largest religious festival in the world. It is a Hindu festival called the Kumbh Mela, and it happens once every 12 years. In this English lesson, we will watch a news clip about the tragedy, and then I will come back and teach all of the advanced words they use, those English idioms, and those pesky English phrasal verbs. We will talk about terms like stampede. We'll talk a little bit more about that festival called the Kumbh Mela. We'll learn a little bit about the Hindu religion and how it is different from Hindi. We will talk about other religions that use water. We'll talk about what wudu is. We'll talk about baptism. We'll talk about the mikvah. How about this English word, surge? Native English speakers love to use this word, particular. Take a dip. How about this English phrasal verb, tripped up? Not a good verb here. Usually this is trampled. We will talk about what a stretcher is. The English phrasal verb set up. We'll talk about the noun form of monitor and the verb form. A great term to know in English, bottleneck, and so many more. Let's watch the clip together and then I will come back and teach all of the difficult terms.
Now we're following breaking news out of India where several people are feared dead, many others injured in a stampede at a religious festival. This was early this morning there. The Kumbh Festival is every 12 years. It's expected to attract more than 400 million people over 6 weeks. Samira Hussain with our partners at BBC News brings us more from Northern India.
The first term they used that I thought might give you some trouble is several. We've also talked about multiple recently, and they are almost the same word. Several means more than two, but not many. A few is another term you might hear instead of multiple. Several people were injured during the festival. That is just an example sentence because the number of people killed and injured is more than several. We are talking 30 to 80 killed and just as many injured. That is more than several. And every time I use several in these sentences, you can change it out with multiple. She drinks several cups of coffee every morning. She drinks multiple cups of coffee every morning. If this English lesson is helping you improve your English, would you mind hitting that like button? That way other English learners will be able to find the lesson. They also talked about stampede in the news clip, a sudden, uncontrolled movement of a large group of people or animals. In the picture, you can see there is a stampede of horses. A stampede occurred when the crowd rushed towards the river. Yeah, it's super sad to say, but the people who died at this music festival were crushed in a stampede of people. If you are watching and you are Hindu, you already know this, but I think there are many who have never heard of the Kumbh Mela. So let's talk about it. It's a major Hindu festival held every 12 years in India. Millions gather to bathe in sacred rivers. And by millions, it's possible 400 million will be attending this festival. The Kumbh Mela attracts millions of pilgrims seeking spiritual cleansing. Pilgrims are people who travel because of religion. Cleansing is like a little more formal than cleaning. The Kumbh Mela lasts about 48 days. Roughly 400 million attend the religious festival. And there's an even bigger festival called the Kumbh Mela that happens only once every 144 years, and the next one is in 2033. Something super special. I can't imagine how many people will attend. Before we talk about other religions that use water, I do want to talk about Hindu versus Hindi. A Hindu is a person who follows Hinduism a major religion in India. Many Hindus attend the Kumbh Mela for religious rituals. But in English, Hindi is a language. Hindi is the language. Hindus are the people who follow Hindu. Now, let's talk about the religion of Islam. The people who practice Islam are called Muslims, and there is a ceremony called wudu. Wudu is an Islamic practice where a person washes their hands, face, arms, and feet before praying. It is done to clean the body. We might also use cleanse and prepare for prayer. Before entering the mosque, that is a place where Muslims pray, Ali performed wudu by washing his hands and face. Christians also have a ceremony for cleansing the body. This ceremony is called a baptism. Baptism is a Christian ceremony where a person is sprinkled with or dipped in water. We will talk about that verb dip in a minute. It is a symbol of being spiritually clean and joining the church. Sarah was very excited about her baptism because it showed she had joined the church. Now let's talk about water and the Jewish religion, or Judaism, and this is called a mikvah. A mikvah is a special pool of water used in Judaism for washing and becoming spiritually clean. People use it after special events or to prepare for religious ceremonies. Leah went to the mikvah before her wedding as part of her religious tradition.
Now we're following breaking news out of India where several people are feared dead, many others injured in a stampede at a religious festival. This was early this morning there. The Kumbh Festival is every 12 years. It's expected to attract more than 400 million people over 6 weeks. Samira Hussain with our partners at BBC News brings us more from Northern India.
There are millions and millions of people that have come to this Hindu religious festival, and thousands of them are actually sleeping right along the riverbanks, extending as far back as you can see.
In the news clip, they talked about riverbanks, and that is basically the sides of the river or the land along the river. Worshippers gathered on the riverbanks to perform special tasks for their religion. In the news clip, they talked about people extending as far as the eye could see. Let's talk about the definition. It means to make something longer or larger, stretching out. The festival area was extending over a large part of the city. But let's use extending when talking about studying English. I extended my study time from 30 minutes to an hour. This is a lot of English. I hope it is helping you. Could you do me a favor? Let me know in the comments how many hours or how many minutes do you study English each day?
There are millions and millions of people that have come to this Hindu religious festival, and thousands of them are actually sleeping right along the riverbanks, extending as far back as you can see. The trouble happened when there was a surge of people who went to a particular point to try and take a dip in the holy waters. Well, as they were coming in and out, they inevitably got tripped up on the people that were sleeping along the banks, and those individuals got trampled on.
Surge is a sudden, strong movement forward or upward. If you look at the picture, you will often hear about a surge of water. It can be super dangerous. But in the news clip, they talked about a surge of people, which can be equally dangerous. A surge in the crowd led to the tragic incident. Sometimes you can have a strong surge of water during a flood or at the beach. Particular native English speakers love to use this word, specific or special, referring to one thing and not others. You might say, I love learning a lot of languages, but I particularly love English. Another sentence using particular. On this particular day, the crowd was larger than usual. I'm looking for a new hat, but it has to be a particular color. Not just any old color, it has to be black.
The trouble happened when there was a surge of people who went to a particular point to try and take a dip in the holy waters. Well, as they were coming in and out, they inevitably got tripped up on the people that were sleeping along the banks, and those individuals got trampled on.
In this English lesson, we've already used dip as a verb. Now let's use it as a noun, and we'll use it with the verb take, one of the most difficult in English. But to take a dip means to go into the water quickly, to bathe or cool off. Yeah, it usually happens for a short period of time. Pilgrims take a dip in the river as part of the ritual. Some religions use holy water. The Hindu religion does too. Holy water is just water that is considered sacred or blessed. It's like really, really special when it comes to religion. Some people believe that bathing in the holy water washes away sins. Sins are the bad things you do. Unfortunately, I could not find a great picture for this important word, but it is inevitably. Inevitably. It means certain to happen, unavoidable. I think in a past English lesson, we talked about inevitable. This is inevitably, just a different form of the word. With such a large crowd, some problems were inevitably going to happen. Something that is definitely going to happen right below, it is inevitable that a new iPhone will be released this year, right? Usually during September, a new iPhone comes out. What is it? iPhone 17 that will be next? I still have an iPhone 15 and I love it.
The trouble happened when there was a surge of people who went to a particular point to try and take a dip in the holy waters. Well, as they were coming in and out, they inevitably got tripped up on the people that were sleeping along the banks.
You know how native English speakers love to invent English phrasal verbs? We'll take a verb and then put up or out at the end of it and totally change that word. Tripped up. It's not that different from trip. The verb trip, if you know that, you probably know tripped up. To stumble or fall because of hitting one's foot against something. That poor man looks like he tripped up in the middle of the street. Some people tripped up on the uneven ground during the rush. And also, native English speakers love to change the meaning of English phrasal verbs. Just when you think you understand the meaning, we'll use it in a different way. So, tripped up can also mean you made a mistake. Like maybe you took the IELTS or TOEFL exam. Your friend might say, "Hey, how did you do?" You could say, "I think I did pretty well. I might have tripped up on a couple questions though." I hope this never happens to you. I tripped up and ruined the surprise party. Next, I really didn't have a great picture for individuals, but I do have a good definition. Not the whole crowd. Certain people. Many individuals traveled long distances to attend the festival.
They inevitably got tripped up on the people that were sleeping along the banks, and those individuals got trampled on. We saw stretchers being taken in and taken out with bodies. We saw dozens and dozens of ambulances taking away the injured.
Trampled means stepped on heavily, often causing injury or damage. In the craziness, some people were trampled by the crowd. Some individuals were trampled by the crowd. Let's use two of our new words together. It is possible to get trampled in a stampede. They talked about how medical people were using stretchers. Stretchers are light beds that you use to carry injured or sick people. We can get a close up of that picture so you can see exactly what a stretcher is. Medics used stretchers to transport the injured to hospitals. Like, I know you can see an ambulance in that picture, but with that big crowd, it is probably hard to drive an ambulance around. It would be much quicker to use a stretcher.
We saw stretchers being taken in and taken out with bodies. We saw dozens and dozens of ambulances taking away the injured.
Seems like I talk about this word in almost every English lesson. This could be review, but a dozen is a group of 12, but it's often used to mean many. We wouldn't say tens of people were killed. I'm not sure why, but we would say dozens. Like if the number is less than 100, but bigger than like 10, you might hear dozens. Or maybe like bigger than 20. Dozens of people were affected by the incident. We don't say tens of people were hurt. I'm not sure why. We just don't. You'll hear dozens. There's the picture of the stretcher again for taken away, removing someone or something from a place. Emergency services were taken away the injured for treatment.
Now, there are going to be a lot of questions for authorities, but they will challenge and say, look, we had set up 2,700 cameras, not just here at this location, but throughout the city to try and monitor any potential bottlenecks to try and disperse crowds. But it's clear that something went wrong, and there are certainly going to be quite a few questions being asked.
Lots of English phrasal verbs in this one. Set up. It means to establish or arrange something. Like each summer before the school year starts, I have to set up my classroom. I have to get it ready for school for my students. Authorities set up barriers to manage the crowd. A barrier is a big something. It might be made of wood or concrete, but it prevents people from moving into a certain area. It looks like this woman is camping and she is setting up a tent for the night. We had to set up tables and chairs for the party. In the news clip, they use the word monitor, but I would like to talk about how we can use it as a noun and how we can use it as a verb. In the noun way, it's a device or person that observes or watches or checks something. Security personnel acted as monitors during the event. Maybe you are watching this English lesson on a computer monitor or maybe a TV monitor. It's like the screen you watch something on. But monitors can also monitor as a verb. It means to watch or check something over a period of time. Officials monitor the crowd to prevent accidents. I am glad I don't have to do this, but it looks like these teachers are monitoring the cafeteria during lunchtime. We call that lunch duty, and it was one of the worst times of the day for me when I had lunch duty and had to monitor all of the students in the cafeteria. Not fun. I am glad I don't have to do it this year. Let's look at this word potential. Means possible, capable of becoming real. You have the potential to be a great English speaker because you watch so many English lessons. There was a potential risk due to the large gathering. Anytime you get 400 people together, there is potential for things to go wrong. We have the potential for a big snowstorm tomorrow. Actually, guess what? We did have a big storm last night, and we got quite a bit of snow. I'll show you that right now. And if you would like to become a channel member, I do an English lesson outside. If you are a channel member, you get a bonus English lesson each week. For more information on becoming a channel member, check the description or check the comments for a link.
Now, there are going to be a lot of questions for authorities, but they will challenge and say, look, we had set up 2,700 cameras, not just here at this location, but throughout the city to try and monitor any potential bottlenecks to try and disperse crowds.
The next one we have is bottleneck. That means a narrow or busy section that slows movement. In that picture, there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, maybe even 9 lanes of traffic. If those 9 lanes had to go down to like 1 or 2 lanes of traffic, you would definitely get a bottleneck. That's where the term comes from, like an actual neck of a bottle. That's a bottleneck. The entrance became a bottleneck, causing delays. How about this verb, disperse, to spread out or move apart? Scatter is a good synonym. After the ceremony, the crowd began to disperse. Take a look at that picture. It looks like the police are forcing the crowd to disperse. Let's take a look at this sentence. After the protests got violent, the police told the crowd to disperse. Congratulations, you made it to the end of a very difficult English lesson. Don't forget, if you would like to become a member, check the comments for the link. If you're looking for more English lessons, right down there is a tragic story about a plane crash in the United States. A huge shout out to Yulia. I think she watches every single English lesson, and she always leaves a nice comment. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.